What follows is a discussion I had with Chris Kutler. Chris is a dear friend and we've known each other for many years now. Over the years, Chris has developed a name for himself amongst the genealogists, archaeologists, and amateur treasure hunters. Chris founded and is running a website called RyUK. I can leave a link to the website in the episode notes, and I would really encourage you to go and have a look. It's full of really useful, interesting data, maps, and historic charts. I hope you find this discussion of use, and I do encourage you to go and support Chris in his website and social media. This is a Kianistan podcast. To support us, please do like our videos, subscribe, and share. And please do leave a comment because it's always great to hear from you. Thank you, and now let's get started. Hi, Chris. Hi, welcome to the channel. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Taff. Thanks for inviting me. Long time no see.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, it has been a long time. Chris Kutler is a long dear friend. We've worked together for more than a decade at the National Archives. And actually, we both left the National Archives on, I think, more or less the same week, if not the same day.
Same day, same minute. We both walked out the door at the same time.
It was liberating. It was amazing.
Yeah, so, ready to take on new challenges and go our own way.
When was that? Chris, was that 2017 or 2018?
2018.
18, yes.
August. I think it was August. Yeah, I think it was August 2018.
So I think we're a good example of how you can quit your job and become your own boss if you want. Maybe I'm a bad example and Chris is a good example, though Chris did it really well. So let's talk about that today.
Well,
so Chris, basically, Chris, you are involved you have your own website and you are involved in treasure hunting, and your website supports kind of people interested in treasure hunting, but also archaeologists. Is that right?
I think that's right. I mean, because of the nature of the material on the website, then treasure hunters will be attracted to it. Mm-hmm. And they're the main subscriber base. And also, I created the website because I wanted to find treasure.
Yeah.
So I collected all the data, all the maps that I needed in order for me to find it, and then I thought, well, I'll put it online and see what happens. But it's moved on from then into a local history website.
Yeah.
The genealogists use it, local historians, people just interested in. So it's not just a treasure hunting website. It did have that kind of name,
yeah,
but it's
evolved. Brilliant. Okay, we'll talk about the historical side of things and also the archaeological side of things. But let's just start with treasure hunting, if that's okay with you. So, tell me a bit about. First, tell me how you got started yourself. How did you get interested in this field?
Well, I think it's like most people, most kids. You know, I was like 7. Come across treasure. You know, even my children. In the cartoons they watched, it mentions treasure at 2 and 3 years old. Peppa Pig has treasure hunting. Family Guy has got treasure hunting. So it's part of almost like the collective understanding. And then it became really big in the 70s, mid-70s, when they started having better metal detectors.
Yeah.
And it made front page news. People started finding hoards, front page news. So someone who's not really understanding history, a young person, can understand what treasure is, and it's old and that kind of thing. So that's what started me.
Yeah.
And then I sort of had a little play around with it. Didn't find any treasure. Tried to find a Roman fort. Couldn't find it. This is in the 70s because there was no information.
You were trying to find what? Sorry.
A Roman fort.
Okay.
There's a myth, which is not a myth. There's kind of a Roman fort being on the Saddleworth Moor. So I must have been about 12. Something like that, 12, 13. So me and a friend went to try and find it, and we spent weeks up there but no one knew where it was.
So Chris, is that also the difference between treasure hunting and archaeology? Like, is archaeology finding big landmarks like a shipwreck or a fort, whereas treasure hunting is looking for like buried articles or something?
Treasure hunting and archaeology are there's more of an crossover than there used to be. It used to be the case that somebody would go out specifically to find something that's worth some money.
Yeah.
And the idea, the kind of cynical view is that the person is not interested in its historical value. But
I see.
obviously, but that's not true, because whenever you go out, you can spend weeks finding nothing, years,
Yeah.
and then when you find something, you think, well, what's this? Where's it come from? And then that engages you with history. So it's very rare that somebody that is involved just for the material and
Yes.
money, because
You can't do it. Yeah.
it's actually just too hard.
Yeah.
It's actually too much effort and a lot of work.
Yeah,
Most people
you
don't
have
find
to have
treasure.
a passion for
So you've got
has
to
be
get
a
other things
lifestyle
out of
thing.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I was just doing some online research before the interview, and I wasn't aware of this before, but apparently there's some criteria for a find to be classified as treasure, isn't it? I don't know. What I was reading, it was saying that the article that you found has to be at least 300 years old for it to be classified as treasure.
I mean, that's right. Prior to last year, that was the generic one. But then there's further layers of that, whether it's made out of gold.
Yes,
And
precious metal or not.
Yeah, well, last year they changed the law. They amended it so that treasure was defined as anything that could be of national importance. Because there's a lot of things, for example, a bronze statue.
Yes, even pottery and things like that.
Yeah,
No.
well, just a bronze statue that wouldn't have been treasure under the definition last year. So that became treasure, or a hand axe, and that wouldn't, that wouldn't a flint hand axe. So it's changed. But there is specific definition of treasure.
Interesting. So, in the time that you've been doing this yourself, do you have any interesting stories of like any finds that you've had?
I mean, it's a difficult one, because I actually don't get time to get out. But obviously, the biggest find I was the hoard of Anglo-Saxon gold coins, which is quite a unique find. It's kind of a dream find.
When did you find that?
The first ones were in 1999. That was just 2 coins, and then I tried to find more on that field for another 6 years. Didn't find anything. Then went back in 2017 for various reasons and found 2 more. And then every year again, I would spend 3 to 5 days in an area beside of a tennis court, raking the soil. Then didn't find anything for another 4 years, 2021. Then I found another 2 coins.
Wow.
But that is in terms of material value, it's got a value. But in terms of the historical value, it's incredible, because it put the particular area on the map. People didn't know it had an Anglo-Saxon history to it.
Very true.
But it also tells you about a find like that this is the difference between treasure and archaeology, where the overlap is. Because a find like that, yes, it's worth some money.
Yes.
But in an archaeological perspective, it's like, well, what was that hoard doing there? Why was it there? And then there's another hoard, and that was found with a similar composition. So it's telling you there must have been, during that period, probably about 640 AD, a period of instability, which led people to bury hoards. You see, so although it's treasure hunting, when you make the find, then it's the interpretation of the treasure that then becomes archaeology.
Context. Yeah.
And as you know, as working in a historical environment yourself, archaeology is the unwritten record. The written record, as we know, can be altered to suit a particular agenda. Whereas the archaeological record is information that sometimes contradicts that the historical record.
Yeah. So, my listeners are going to kick me if I don't ask you this. What was the material value of those finds that you had?
Well, it's debatable. It's very nuanced. Archaeology, it's all very nuanced. It can change. So the material value was difficult to assess because they were unique finds. So the first 2 coins, one was probably £1,500. The next one, 2 coins, £7,500. Then now we're looking at the latest ones between £15,000 to £20,000,
Wow.
which
Why are they getting more expensive? Is it because they're older or they're bigger?
no,
Or
it's because of interest. People are
okay.
becoming
Oh,
and
okay.
investors
That's
are looking
interesting.
for kind of physical wealth, and the antiquities market, as it reflects a change in antiquities market, and those valuations that I've given there, that's a valuation not been tested in the market because the coins haven't appeared in the market. If they were to go on the international market, they may double or triple that value.
Wow.
Yeah.
So where are those coins now?
Two of them are in the British Museum being
Wow. Are they on
assessed.
display?
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet.
There's two at the Essex, so the in the museum in Essex. They're actually on display.
Wow.
That's the Epping District Museum. They're on display with a lot of other treasure finds from the area, which is really good to hear. So they're going on display.
Is it on record somewhere that they were how they got hold of them, who found them, and the
Yeah,
kind of
that
history
that'll be
behind them?
on the Portable Antiquities Schemes database. So when you find treasure, or indeed if you find something of interest,
Yeah.
then that will get
Oh,
recorded
wow.
its location, photographs will be taken of it, and I think there's more than 500,000 finds have been recorded since the introduction of the Portable Antiquities Scheme.
Wow.
So it's all recorded, and that information is then available for research. So and it's a lot of the recent finds have literally rewritten history.
So there's been more recent finds in that same area after you found your first coins, have there?
Oh, not. I don't know about that. When we talk about area, we
Yeah.
talk about in the wider area.
Okay.
There's things. I always say that we haven't touched the amount of treasure that could be underground, or archaeology that is there, whether it's a single find or a site.
So why were you looking in that particular area, which was the size of a tennis court? Is that because that's where you found the first coin and you wanted to look around that particular area, or?
No, it was more to do with there are certain elements in to try and find archaeology or treasure. There are certain elements in the geography and the landscape which provide clues, like signposts to where something might be. So this particular place had obviously near a water source. That's the first thing.
Okay.
Then a road crossing the water source, that a ford. They're always great places. Then you've got a place where a market might be, an ancient market.
Hmm.
So which may have spilled out onto the surrounding fields, and so it's those kind of things that I was looking for, and the place name.
And how do you know that, like in historic context, if there would have been a market here, or what would the layout
I
have
mean,
been?
generally the place name would suggest an archaeological indicator. So most place names, well, about 30% of place names in the UK are personal names. There's another proportion, maybe 30%, are also to do with what the location meant, back in the day, back in
Hmm.
Anglo-Saxon times. So, for example, you hear the word Harefield, like
Ah,
Harefield or Hereford.
yeah.
It means you think, oh, that's a what's that mean? Something to do with hares? But it's not.
Mm.
Hare is derived from the word to harry, as in an army. So it's a ford an
Ah.
army can cross. So Hereford,
Oh,
and
so that'll be ideal from that point of view, no?
yeah,
That'd be a good.
and interestingly, the SAS are based at Hereford. So
Ah.
I don't think it's even part of the reason why. But so place names are really important.
Hmm.
Then secondly, there's aerophotography, lidar, and there's all these things come together. And also, you can have a gut feeling about something. You can hold all these things in your head. You can have all these ideas, but you can go to a place and just get a feeling that something's there. Can't really explain it.
Yeah.
Can't really explain it.
Yeah. And that's what one thing that I was reading, that like I think there's skill and then there's gut feeling involved in the whole thing, because there's certain people who find treasure and then they find it repeatedly, like they often come across something, whereas others spend years and years and find nothing at all. So I think
Um,
there's some instinct going on there as well.
I mean, there's a couple of things. Like I used to detect with a guy years ago, Lucky Lenny. He was always finding stuff. But if you but if you watch what he did, he would get a signal which was a bit iffy, and then he would really analyze it, and then he would probably dig signals other people wouldn't dig. So that was that. And the other thing is, luck is proportional to the amount of research that you do. A lot of people are really tied to the research. They find it fascinating. They do all the background research.
Yeah.
I mean, before I around about the time I created the website, I went down a Roman road. That was a Roman road. I went for 5 years down the left-hand side of the Roman road, found nothing Roman. 5 years later, I crossed over the road. That's where the Roman stuff was. But if I'd done the research on my own website, I would I would have seen that the Roman archaeology was on the other side of the road. But I didn't even check my own website.
Wow.
So that's why I was walking around for 5 years not finding anything.
Yeah. So on your website, do you also have like links to useful books, like books with like that give historic context to place names and?
I mean, I need
geographical?
to. I mean, on the website there is a place name interpreter. That is an.
Oh wow.
It will deconstruct the place name into its elements and then give you a translation. So it's really rudimentary. You know, it's like it looks at because most place names have got a couple of elements, and then it'll break them down. Do a lookup table in a dictionary of place names, and then give you the interpretation of what it means. And so you can also so for example, if you want to find places called chipping, typing chipping, and it would tell you that is debatable, but I think it is true, an Anglo-Saxon market. So it's already telling you that it's been there a long time. Another thing is we both worked in, I think, at the National Archives. This was a Doomsday book.
Yeah.
Did you work on that?
We worked on it together.
I mean, that's perfect. So a Doomsday place name means it's been there since 1060. Was it 1078? I can't remember the exact date we did the census. So it's an old place. Yeah, so there's that kind of thing, but there's not really. I don't really list other people's work because then I don't want to have any bias. So there's no bias. I put what is mine, what I can help with, and then the interpretation. People, I concentrate more on the technicalities. I'm making it simple to go through the data and the imagery, and then present it in a way that is people can work with, and rather than trying to explain, because people don't often read a lot of text when they're browsing the web. You know.
Also, tell me if this is right, but from what I was reading, apparently Norfolk is the best place in terms of the most number of finds in the UK.
I mean, I'm not sure whether the most
over 100 a year.
I mean, that's treasure finds. So I mean, it's going to be related to the number of detectorists and the size of the population for the county. So, but I imagine someone like Norfolk or Suffolk has got a lower population density, but higher treasure finds, and that's mainly when we talk about treasure, we talk about Roman treasure, Celtic, Iron Age. That's what we really mean, not so much medieval. When they say, and that's because of the trade links between the continent. That's the main, and also because it was it's where the most powerful people would live because it's got the best climate. It's got lighter soils, but the main thing is the trade links going right back to the Iron Age and before. So that's why Suffolk has been. It was also remembered that it would be the Suffolk Kent coast will be the landing site for the Germanic tribes and the Anglian tribes who came to England in the post-Roman period, straight after the post-Roman period. So it's a good landing spot, but the main thing is the trade links.
Yeah. And apparently, so Coventry, Bristol and York have not had a single find in the past 3 years, according to the site I was reading. Is that because they're more modern towns, or is what's going on?
I mean, it's probably more to do. That's surprising. I would have to look at the size of look at what York means. Does York include rural areas? And if it doesn't, if the the area code York doesn't include rural areas, then people aren't going to find anything unless they
Yeah,
find it in their back
because
garden.
everything's built over, isn't it? No.
Yeah, and Coventry is very highly populated, and
Yeah.
a lot of building there. There probably is. It would be worth looking at it from a geographical perspective and seeing which rivers go through Coventry. And if there's no rivers, because you're looking at ancient history, tend to be associated with riverine routes.
And what about like equipment? So if someone's wanting to start this kind of on a like a hobby amateur basis, but semi-seriously, what kind of equipment would you recommend?
I mean, it can vary. I mean, I personally would recommend a second-hand detector. So
Really?
don't buy a cheap brand new detector.
Oh, okay. Buy expensive second-hand one.
And by expensive, I mean £200 to £300. That will do you, because then the next thing to do is find somewhere to detect. So, and you don't need a really powerful and fancy detector if you're in the right place, because the plough will bring up the finds to the surface, and then the finds are going to generally be within the range of most detectors, including the less expensive ones. So I'd always say maybe £300 second-hand one, maybe
Okay.
400 tops, and then you want one which has got good iron discrimination. It would discriminate iron out. So some of the old laser models are pretty good like that.
What does that do? So it distinguishes between types of metal.
Yeah, it distinguishes between it's got the lasers have got really good iron discrimination. So because if you're detected in an area, you don't want to be digging up bits of iron all the time.
Yeah.
Because then you're wasting your time, kind of thing. So that's my recommendation. A lot of people would say, well, you need a really powerful detector, but my issue with that is that a powerful detector will give you a lot of signals, and if you're inexperienced, you may get so frustrated about digging up pieces of coke and bits of iron that you may just give up. So
And how far down can they detect?
I mean, that this is always an area of a discussion, but in my experience, say for example, a pound coin, with that weight, you might get down to 6 inches.
Okay.
I mean, I've dug things down to a foot, and the reason why I've done that is because when I was digging it, I didn't center on I missed the point. I didn't pinpoint where the coin was. So what it was doing, it was falling down the hole as I dug. So I mean, really, and it depends on the nature of it. If you've got flat soil, like pasture, it can go deeper because the soil is compressed. If you've got newly ploughed soil, then it may only be a couple of inches. But if you're in a good place and you're in a what they term a hot spot, and then it doesn't really matter about the depth. In some cases, depth, which is generally what people mean by power, what they pay for, is what you don't want, because you don't want to be digging for an hour, half an hour, and then dig up a ploughshare, because it's a lot of work, and I've no unless it's a ploughshare of archaeological significance, which is most iron, isn't it? Unless you X-ray it.
Yeah. So when you detect something with a device, does it also tell you how far down the item is? Like, or will it just go beep, beep, beep? And you don't know, it could be 6 inches, it could be a foot down.
Well, it makes different kind of noises depending on the detector, and depending on the metal. So some cheaper detectors will just give the same beep for iron and gold, for example, because they haven't got good discrimination. Other detectors like the XPs will give a low pitch for iron, and they'll give it a nice ring. They actually sound. Maybe they've programmed into it. They sound like something nice.
Yeah.
So it's then you need to interpret the sound yourself, and that comes with experience.
So you need to be familiar with your equipment and
familiar with that, but there's also there's a few you need to have a bit of skill with it. It's more of an art. It's more of an art. You get used to the detector, and it's almost like you just learn it without really trying to learn it. It just comes here. Again, you get go on.
Yeah. So slightly different taking a detour, but I've actually heard in urban centers, it's a big thing at the moment where people break into someone's house with metal detectors. And then, especially with Asian people, they like to have jewelry and things like that in the home. And they think it's secure and it's tucked away somewhere. But these thieves come with metal detectors and they can find out exactly, pinpoint where the thing is
Well,
and take that.
I remember you asking me about
Yes,
that
we had a conversation
a few
exactly.
years ago.
Yeah, because I was trying to solve this problem. I was thinking, because I actually had a friend then, and that's what happened with her parents. Basically, her mom and dad, elderly people, they had some jewelry that was passed on from generations, and they took like a floor panel out from one of the steps and put it tucked away under the step, and they were thinking, this is brilliant, no one's ever going to find it here. And someone came in with a metal detector, didn't touch the rest of the house, just found exactly where it was and just took it. And I was thinking, this is horrible. Like, what's the solution?
Well, there's a whole science to there's a whole science and art to um, treasure hunting,
Hmm.
like in houses. So, and there's obvious places people. Or my first impression would be, well, where do people generally hide things anyway throughout history?
Yeah.
It would be
And
somewhere
we're the
that's
same, aren't we?
accessible
Yeah.
under the step,
Hmm.
or often a usual place would be in the roof, in the
Yeah.
eaves of the roof. So the problem with having a metal detector in the house is that you wouldn't know where to start because there's metal all over the house. There's wiring in the walls. There's copper piping.
Yeah. So
So
would the
that
metal
was.
detector tell them that, like, now we're getting signals of gold, or this is copper, or?
I mean, some of them do, but I think if it's a mass, like
Mhm.
like you suggested, then it would. I don't think it's going to be able to tell what it is.
Okay.
I mean, one day hopefully that'll come. I mean, that's some detectors do give a visual indication of what it is, a ring pull or a coin or a piece of rubbish. But I think from my experience, it's better just to go off the sound of it
I
and the
actually,
context.
yeah. So when I had this conversation with you a few years ago, because basically at that time I saw this problem, and because I'm involved in Amazon and things like that, I was thinking there must be a solution. There must be something we can invent that can kind of cover the treasure to stop the rays getting through so that it can't be detected. That's what was on my mind at the time. So then I spoke with you, and then I called one of my cousins in Pakistan who's actually in the army, and he's in charge of finding landmines and things like that. So he has some knowledge about like
Mm.
detecting metal and things like that. So the advice he was giving, I don't know what you think, but he was saying, if you're going to put some jewelry or something in the house, then put it, first of all, put it somewhere where there's going to be lots of other metal anyway. Maybe like put
That's.
it inside at the bottom of the washing machine, or put it somewhere and put lots of nails around it so that everything's going to go beep beep beep.
I mean, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. But I'd like to see. I mean, without giving them any credit,
Mm.
to use a detector to find treasure, to find a
Hmm.
cache in someone's house.
Is it hard? Do you think it's not going to
Yeah,
be an
I
easy
think
thing?
I wouldn't even bother. I wouldn't even try it. I
Honestly,
just look in the usual places where would hide something.
yeah.
Like I say, it's always
But
under
you
the.
have skill that these people don't have. You're like the Indiana Jones of.
But there's a whole because when I was up in the archives, I read that I looked up treasure finds in buildings, and like I said, there's a pattern. There's a pattern in where people would hide things in buildings.
Hmm.
Um, and there's a whole science about where people would hide hoards. It stems from the army, where they would bury a cache. They would hide a cache of arms to come back to, but then
Yeah.
they'd have to look at the the geographical markers like rocks and trees, and so that they'd know where it was. I think it's similar with treasure. You know, if it's near a landmark, which would have been there for 2,000 years, 20 paces along a road,
Hmm.
all that kind of thing, 20 paces along a path. It's
Wow.
common sense, but there are some factors that are
Yeah.
generic
What
to.
about like old houses? We've got like um, residential buildings in this country that are like hundreds of years old. Um, you think there'd be stuff there in the garden or something?
I think, I mean, there would be stuff there, but it'd be a nightmare. It'd be a nightmare because I've done gardens before.
Hmm.
Once I did it once, and that was enough because there's so much rubbish in gardens. You know, you got the rubbish from when they constructed the house, so you would need to probably take off the first foot of soil,
Oh
take
wow!
off that, and then roll it so it's compressed, and then
Then start.
maybe if you did that in York, it went to York and then went to the garden in York or Coventry, took off the first couple of feet in a big garden,
Mm,
then you might start finding stuff in those places.
wow. So for our listeners, Chris is, apart from what other cool things Chris does, Chris has a boat. So quite some time Chris spends on a boat. So tell us about that a little bit. Like, do you get to travel a lot?
Not really in the boat. I mean, the boat is kind of like good for if you want to experiment with getting off the grid.
Hmm.
If you want to, because part of as you part of my interest in history is how did people cope all those years ago? You know, how did they cope with without electricity, or how
Yeah.
did they without water? So you can get into that mindset if you,
Mm,
once you decouple yourself in an environment where you need to think outside the box in order to get water and to get sunshine and to get heat and all that kind of thing.
yeah,
So that's why I like it. I mean, but it can be extremely frustrating.
I could
Can be
imagine.
extremely because you've been constantly banging into things because
Yeah,
of the space. It's extremely frustrating.
because you have young kids as well now. So
And yeah, and they're always moving things around. And you
mhm,
also need to be good at DIY,
yeah.
or you don't need to be good at it. We got to be prepared to learn about it.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you're then at the mercy of tradespeople who may not be up to the job. Some of them are, some of them aren't.
Let me just take a moment to mention our sponsors for today. This episode has kindly been sponsored by the Worldwide Listings Company Limited, or WLC for short. Based in the UK, WLC is a specialist Amazon marketing and sales consultancy. So whether you're an existing seller on Amazon or you're thinking of starting a brand on Amazon, get in touch today to see how we can help. I say we because, as it happens, I happen to be the founder and CEO of the Worldwide Listings Company. This gives me the opportunity to offer you a great deal today. Get in touch and mention Kianistan, and we can offer you a complete 1 month management service free of charge. There's no contracts to worry about, and you can leave at any point if you are not entirely satisfied with the service that you receive. From product research, supplier sourcing, keyword research, listings creation, graphics and video editing, logistics support and warehousing, and sales and PPC management, WLC can provide you a complete package for your Amazon business. Not only this, but WLC has recently been selected by Amazon to be an Amazon partner agency. This means that we can provide you absolutely free of cost service whereby Amazon assigns a specialist team to your account in order to boost your sales. This is a service that Amazon normally charges $1,200 per month for, but when you work through WLC, you're going to get this free of cost as an added bonus to the service that we provide you. So get in touch. You'll find the links in the episode notes, and I'd love to hear from you. And now let's get back to the episode. Have you had a chance to do archaeological or treasure hunting type of things in other countries? Where have you been?
And what the main thing I've done abroad, I mean, I've not taken a detector because
Mm.
generally the laws in the UK are quite liberal. They're quite,
Okay.
there's a lot of trust. Uh, there's a really good trust relationship between the authorities who um, govern the fines and the people who go out and find stuff.
By the
So,
way, sorry to
mm,
interrupt you, but
mm,
um, yeah, that's another thing I was going to ask you. That basically, tell me if you think this sounds right. But I was
mm.
reading that in this country, only about 5% of the treasure ever found has been found by professional archaeologists. 95% has been found by amateur hobbyists. So maybe that's another reason that there is that trust because we rely a lot on people going out and doing these things.
I mean, I don't know what the original driving factor for the portable antiquity scheme was, but I think that might have played a role. in having. I mean, I don't know how many detectors there are active in the country. There must be at least 10,000. There's probably about 50,000 detectors out there, probably more. And remember, so there's 10,000 people going out, or 5,000, even 1,000 every weekend, scanning a field, compared to an excavation, which generally is underfunded. I mean, archaeology is very underfunded. It's usually only funded by construction companies and land developers. So there's not really a lot of compared to detecting. There's not really a lot of finding going on. There's not a lot of. I mean, it's kind of like a first level research, that first look into an area. So that's probably why there's 95% more. I mean, and it's also with a detector. When you do an archaeological dig, you're scraping a square 100 square meters you got with a trowel. You're not looking necessarily for metal. You're looking for pottery. You're looking for everything else.
Yeah.
Whereas a detector, you can go straight over it 100 square meters, and you could cover it in probably 2 hours. Not perfectly, but probably get 80% covered in 2 hours. Whereas to dig that down to a meter, it's probably looking about 2 months.
Wow.
So it's the fine, the rate at which you can identify stuff.
Yeah.
That probably explains that.
So yeah, I'm sorry I interrupted you, but
It's all right.
you're telling me about how this country has more liberal rules and comparing that with other places. So you're saying when you travel, you don't take your detector with you?
No, because I mean, there's a whole protocol to treasure hunting, or let's say prospecting. It's more like prospecting than it is treasure hunting, in that sense. So the first thing to do is to know that you're allowed to go on there. And
Yeah.
if I'm in India or
Yeah.
Thailand or
You may
in a
not
field
be
somewhere,
aware.
and there's some, you don't know who it is, but I still go there and I'll go there, look at the site, look at its context, its environmental context, and try to understand it. So the last survey I did was of temples, Hindu temples in India,
Uh-huh.
and that was looking at the context of where the temple was placed. And again, there's certain factors to it. So there was one particular temple that was where apparently the reason why it was there was because when the sun rose between two mountains, and the ray of light shone on this particular point in the forest, and that's where they built the temple.
Huh.
So but you'd never find that, you'd never realize that until you go
Yeah.
there. So it's for me. It's not really about prospecting. It's more about understanding.
Yeah.
The and learning the.
Chris, you should be advising government and archaeological teams. You should be like an advisor working with these people um, because, yeah,
I mean, I'd rather
this.
keep out of it. There's lots of people involved in that. That's not
Mm,
my. There's. I think my place is to provide information,
mhm.
provide access. From the. We both worked together at the National Archives for what, more than a decade,
Mhm.
releasing data for
Yes.
people so that they could understand their own family history and get
Yeah.
and understand their identity. So I still see that as my role. That's my role.
Very cool.
Um, and it and then more of a technical person, and then also once you start to work with other people, then you've got responsibility.
Yeah.
If you get something wrong, there's always going to
Yeah.
be somebody that disagrees with you.
Yeah.
So I'd rather do that. What I enjoy doing.
By the way, I think that's why I think you're so good in what you do because you have that historical context, knowledge, information, but also you're technically really good in with scripts and
Yeah, I
um,
mean, thank goodness. I mean, it's just amazing. Yeah, I mean, Perl is what I use.
yeah,
It's just a great language for reading text.
yeah.
Um,
So I
yeah,
think
it makes it
people
more
like you,
interesting.
you're quite unique in that way because I can't imagine there'll be lots of people out there with that um, kind of in their armory.
There will be, but there will be people who are technical who love history because a lot of
Really?
people A lot of metal detectorists have got their own websites. It's got really good websites, run forums.
Very true.
Metal, UK Metal Detector, they're offers forums. But the additional thing that I've got is from working at the National
At the National
Archives.
Archives, yeah.
One of the things I did was work on text. So I work with text every day.
Yeah.
So there's I mean, how do you find out what is a find? So I've written scripts to identify the different kinds of archaeological find. There's more than 500 of them, and like the different kinds of enclosures. So that has come from my work of 15 years at the National Archives, just understanding how to look at data and to dig into it and get something out of it, which is meaningful.
Amazing. I went to Syria many years ago before all of these troubles started in Syria. It's so sad what's going on there. But it's amazing from an archaeological point of view. They have or at least at that time, they had Roman remains in better condition than anywhere in Europe. Yeah, and it was so rich with history, that place.
Yeah, I remember when you went there, and before I met you, and about this, I think about 5 years before, I met a guy from Syria. He'd come over for a conference, and he was telling me, and I thought, oh my God, got to go to his place. It sounds amazing.
Yeah,
sounds amazing.
yeah.
The history, it's something you don't think about with Syria. You don't think about the Roman history.
Yeah, exactly.
And also you don't think about the Christian history as well.
Yeah, exactly. There's Christian forts there, Crusader forts, and everything.
Yeah, but even apart from the conflict, just the history of Christianity has got a place in Syria, and both religions, was
That's very true.
Islam.
I think that's also why some countries are sensitive about people coming and with detectors and looking for things because they want to understand that we can control our national treasures and it's not going to just get stolen from them.
Well, I think it's the same with the RyUK. I mean, people do come to the UK and do go on metal detecting rallies and do things, but they can't start taking things out of the country.
Yeah.
So we do have that level of protection. So if things are
that's
protected,
a good thing. And because in this country, because we have stronger border controls and customs and everything, whereas in a country like Syria, maybe they don't have that much confidence that if someone if they kind of open the fields up for people to come and do their own treasure hunting, whether they can still control that once they've found something and are trying to leave the country.
Well, but I mean, people are doing it anyway. Even regardless of what I do, is people go to Google Earth, Google Earth aerial views, and they look at they will scan over, for example, Egypt, and people have found previously unknown pyramids in Egypt. Just amateurs. I don't know whether they're treasure hunting or not, but
Yeah.
So there's a massive crowd who are doing this kind of thing already.
I guess that's the thing, because information can't be contained, and if anything, it's becoming more and more easily available, which is a good thing. But governments need to adapt. By the way, I need to take you to Pakistan one day. Have you heard about Taxila? It's one of the oldest Buddhist sites in the world along the Indus River. I have some family members working in NGOs over there. I think you'll love it.
I'd love to. I've got a friend who on the boats, and she works with farmers in Pakistan using renewable sources like solar, that kind of thing. So and just the idea of going over there.
Yeah, we have to arrange it.
Let's do it.
Coordinate it. Yeah, we'll sail there together.
Sorry.
We can sail.
I think the boat goes 4 miles an hour, so it's going to take a long time.
So tell me this: how is technology impacting the whole field of treasure hunting, archaeology, AI? How is that changing things for the good or the better?
I think what I'm doing, I've been harnessing technology since it started. So in fact, before I started, when I started the website in 1999, before that, you used to be able to buy printed lists of find spots. Then people would go there, and then they would plot them, and then they would get an idea of where they might find something else. I'm not for one moment suggesting people go on protected sites, but the idea is you see where a site is, and then you look at the paths leading to the site, look at the whole area, and then try and work out where there may be a place where somebody might have camped outside, for example, a Roman fort, maybe a kilometre away. Then the internet came along, so that I digitized all that information.
Yeah.
So I went through all the records,
Yeah.
creating coordinate the era. So say it was one of the first ones was Anglo-Saxon burials by a guy called Meany, 1963. So I went through that whole book, typed the coordinate in, and created a database. And then I went through different databases, and then I started scanning information from all different reports. And then I wrote a program that I call the Archie Brain that read it all. So that was the first use of in my view. People were doing it before, but I was using free text. So I didn't have people weren't typing it into a database. I had written programs because I didn't have the facilities to do that. There's no budget, whereas some authorities and government organisations have millions to spend. I had nothing to spend.
Yeah.
So then the next iteration, the next leap came with Google Maps.
Yeah,
that
was a big thing, wasn't it?
Google aerial photography.
That's still amazing, really.
But just before Google did the online aerial photography on their maps, they were working with Blue Sky, and you could buy CDs for a county of the quite low res area. Yeah, you remember that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then Google Maps came out, which I thought was was a killer. Would have killed my website, but in fact it did the opposite. It did the opposite. Yeah. People became interested, but it was still a niche market because it was still people who had to know about the aerial photography and they had to know about my site. And then the biggest leap was with the advent of mobile phones. So that before that it was just geeks and enthusiasts and it's kind of niche markets. And once the mobile phone came out, if you went to Google and you typed in a map of, I don't know, old map of, let's have a think, Brighton, yeah, you would never get it. You'd have to go to a box shop and buy the map. Now exactly. you go to Google and it goes onto my site. And then you get the old map and you say, oh, this is great. Then you click a button and it puts a layer of archaeology on it. Then it'll put a layer of historical, and you build up an image like that. So that's what technology is doing. AI is going to take it a step further in that the obvious thing is predictive archaeological site prediction from crop marks. So generally we would look at it with our eyes and sort of see a crop mark, but we can only do one every 5 minutes or whatever. Whereas with AI, once you program the rules into the system, it can then look for the patterns that you'll say as a crop mark. So that's the next stage for AI. Then the other thing is with AI is but what I want to do is all this data that are captured from the thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of journals and reports is then create a data set that I can somehow use to train an AI system. And then so you'll go to my website and you'll type in, ask it any question, and it will have it amongst all those millions of words. Hopefully I've got to learn how to do it first. But that's the next stage. Well, the next stage will be discovering new that's computer technology, the internet.
Yeah.
But then you've got remote sensing. Remote sensing is the next big thing.
What's that?
Remote sensing is, as the name suggests, it's like sensing something remotely. So, a metal detector is kind of like a remote sensor, but you basically got to be on top of it to find it. If you could fly a plane,
so it's just drones and things like
drones, exactly right. So if you've got a drone which can somehow send some kind of signal,
that's a really good idea.
It's got to have some signal that can penetrate the soil, bounce back, and then you can that's where the next iteration for metal detecting or treasure hunting or prospecting is going to come in. So technology is going to take us to new, to a different level.
Yeah.
I'm particularly interested in it because I think when the Romans left, there's a reference to that they left unimaginable treasures. Right. So remember, they buried unimaginable treasures
True.
somewhere in England, and the writer said, "But you'll never find it." But obviously, at that time when they wrote it, we didn't have metal detectors, they didn't have remote sensing, we didn't have lidar, we didn't have photography.
Didn't have
Do you know what I mean?
drones.
You know,
Yeah.
didn't have AI. So who knows? Maybe that'll be
Yeah.
found. So and there's lots of stuff. While at the National Archives, I came across so many references, medieval references to
Yeah.
treasure, even from medieval times.
There's
Which,
even like Nazi treasures and stuff around, no?
sorry,
Like treasures that Nazis buried.
I mean, yeah, because I think we both worked on the project from the
Looted
was it,
art.
well,
No?
looted art. We
Yeah.
both worked on that project, didn't we?
Hmm.
And that obviously you start thinking about the where the gold was. There's this fabled gold.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me. You know, if you're in a retreat from
Of course,
a
yeah.
war, then and you can't take your stuff with you. You're going to bury it somewhere.
And they had a
It's,
lot of stuff
yeah,
looted from everywhere, so it
well,
had
but
to go somewhere.
that's what's been happening for thousands of years.
Hmm.
That's the treasure I found. Same thing.
Yeah.
Somebody's in a
Panic.
process of with retreat,
Yeah.
and they need to bury their stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but they never came back to find it, to
Chris,
retrieve
there's
it.
so many. I don't know if you're following these things, but there's so many underground cities being discovered. I think there's one in Turkey. There's maybe one in Malta, if I'm not wrong, in China. Huge cities that we never knew about. So who knows what else is down there?
Oh, who knows? I mean, the other thing is, it's like that brings to mind the quest for Atlantis.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
the clans, you know, the quest for Atlantis, and in the sea, you know, who knows what was going on.
Yeah,
But
and then we have the ocean, and that's a whole new thing because there's so many shipwrecks
there
down
must be
there.
so many that are beyond the range of sonar.
Yeah,
You know, which advances in that technology, in those technologies,
yeah,
could reveal them. They could be a couple of kilometers down. Who knows?
yeah,
You know, and who knows what they're going to, not just a treasure. Who knows what they're going to tell us about trade
yeah,
in that period? That's the point. That all these finds will tell you about, especially with treasure finds, tell you more about trade,
yeah,
and then that tells you about relationships between
yeah,
different cultures. That's what
yeah.
trade is.
This exactly. Once you have information, it can get connected to so many unrelated things. I remember working in the National Archives on a project with the Met Office, and basically we were looking at ship logs where different ships on a daily basis, apart from other things, were noting down what the weather's like. Um, and then we gathered that data, digitized it, made a database, sent it to the Met Office, and the Met Office was able to use that to understand weather change and climate change and everything.
Yeah, and it's also sort of to prove or disprove the current the current narrative
Yeah,
about it.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
um,
those records were very accurate and they were being captured every single day. So if it wasn't for those ship logs, it would actually be really hard to find that kind of data anyway.
mm. and
Um,
and the other thing about the National Archives is the trench maps. I found fascinating. You know, you wouldn't know because when we were working on the trench maps, I looked at Google, Google aerial photography, and there was no way you got on Street View. There's no way you would know that in 1943 there was an army down there in those trenches along that country lane,
yeah.
fighting the Nazis. You know, you shouldn't know it.
By the way, so you mentioned crop um, crop circles. What
Crop
did you call it?
marks.
Crop marks? So
Mm.
is that something you're following as well in your website? Do you identify those?
Yeah, crop marks is usually the first place that you're going to first thing you're going to look for in an aerial photograph will be crop marks. I mean, you'll follow a road,
Hmm.
a pathway, and that's a crop mark. Often, it's a mark in the crop because there's differential growth
I
between
see.
where the crop normally grows and where it's been disturbed by human activity,
Okay.
and
So
that's
this
called a
isn't
crop.
like crop circles as in the film Signs. This is like where we can identify people, human traffic, or people walking on a path, and causing a mark.
I mean, yeah, generally it's disturbance. It's disturbance of a
Yeah.
natural crop, and usually there's certain patterns. So, for example, the generic crop mark for a Roman is that they'll all be a certain size, often square, rounded corners for a Roman fort, and then an Iron Age Celtic crop mark, it was more circular. Then sometimes you'll see a Roman's crop mark with circular inside it. So that's telling you that there's different multi-period activity in the same spot.
Hmm.
So that's what you look for crop marks.
But that's amazing as well that those marks still exist after such a long period of time, and you can still identify them and make something out of them.
It is. I always I kind of liken it to like a scar. You know,
Yeah.
when you're a kid and you fall over and you cut your head and you've got a
Mm.
scar for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that's what it is. It is a scarring of the land
Mm.
from human activity,
Wow.
and it often they often have similarities to certain kinds of activity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we didn't get to Morocco. You've been to Morocco, no?
Mm.
Did you do any treasure, like kind of prospecting there, or?
I mean, Morocco was more because it's a fascinating place.
Yeah,
That's
it
fascinating
is.
with the desert, and then
Yeah.
it's the link to North Africa. You know,
Mhm.
you got the Sahara. Again, movement of trade, and that just fascinating. It's good to go to a place and then to see for yourself
Yeah.
the kind of challenges that the environment and the geography
Mhm.
uh, will impose on you if you want to do, for example, do trade. So I didn't know that they set off camels from North Africa to go across the Sahara unmanned with
Wow.
with
I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah, because the camels just know the way. And then there was, I can't remember the name of the river. I should do, but there's a particular river going through Morocco which had water mills all the way down.
Hmm.
You know, so and again that would be used to grind corn.
Yeah.
And again, you can get an idea of the people rather than the stereotype that you're given, that you're fed at school, or
Yeah.
you know, you can get more of an understanding of people and from different cultures, from just
Morocco
from
is
their
also amazing because it's got so many historic sites, but even historic businesses. I remember when I went to Morocco, the hotel we were living in, the building was 300 years old, and there was lots of surrounding. They in Morocco they have some of the oldest leather tanneries in the world that are like over 1,000 years old, and they still do leather tanning exactly how it used to be done back in
wow.
the days. No chemical use. It's all animal waste and other things that they use. So yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about Morocco this morning actually because it reminds me of Turkey because
Mm.
Turkey is the bridge between the Europe
Yeah.
and Asia, and Morocco is I think is like the transition point between what we now know as Europe
Yeah.
and North Africa.
In Africa,
You know,
exactly.
so there's a reason why there was trade there because
Yeah.
it was a hub, and you also got the seaports. You got it's got a seaport, it's got land routes. You know, so its geographical position lends
Hmm.
itself to being a place of significance in trade, international trade.
Yeah. So tell me then a little bit about your website. What
Mm.
kind of who's your typical user, or do you not have a typical user? And what services do you offer?
I mean, the typical user is well, it's there's three different kinds of user.
Uh-huh.
There's metal detectorists,
Yeah.
there is family historians, and there's people who just love maps, and then there's also people who just, in fact, a lot of people just love maps anyway.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes a person may not know they're interested in family history or know they're interested in local history,
Yeah.
but they get on the website and then they look at they'll zoom in on where they live and then they'll move a slider and then they can see an overlay of an old map and it starts to give them a historical context. So
Yeah.
it enables people to travel in time.
That would be so
Previously,
interesting. I remember working on a project like that, the National Archives. At the time, it was just too costly. The technology was there, but it was quite new. So we kind of just got some costs and samples, but never actually carried out the project. But you're doing that now, are you? You're mapping
Yeah, it's been done. Yeah, it's been done.
Wow.
I use a third-party mapping provider for the higher resolution Victorian maps, but there is a map series that is not done by anybody else that I did. That not me, not my business did, which is quite a challenge. It's quite a
Yeah.
challenge to georeference it. And there's also open source. There's government organisations who can provide open source data, open data, which I'm sort of mashing over. I'm mashing up from private people who will pay a license money to.
Hmm.
I'm mashing up from Google, and then I'm mashing up from publicly available sources to provide a multi-layered map. And that's basically what. So it's different kinds of people. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
I mean, generally, people who metal detectors think it's only for a metal detecting site. Same as archaeologists.
Yeah.
Archaeologists think it's only for archaeologists. It's
Yeah.
not. It's for everybody, really.
Yes.
Hmm.
You've got so much going on. Obviously, you have young kids as well, and there's so many other
Mm.
things. So, is is your database still growing, or has it got to a stage where the database is pretty much there, and now you're trying to develop the website and functionality, or
I
what
mean,
are you doing at the moment?
there's lots of things for refining the data. So remember, as I said before, that I would read through a journal or an archaeological report, and then I'd type in Bronze Age axe found and a coordinate,
Hmm.
and that would be it. But often those summaries missed out other things that were in there as well, like Bronze Age axe and signs of a Bronze Age burial. That was because it was too much to type. The main thing was to type out the coordinate
Yeah.
and give assign an era to it. The other thing I want to do now is to have specific searches for specific site types. So there's a lot of interest at the moment, especially with Gen Zs, young people, which
Hmm.
is surprising, in Neolithic monuments and Bronze Age monuments like Stonehenge and stone circles.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think this is because of an increased interest in neo-paganism.
Yes.
It seems to be sweeping Europe, especially
Yeah.
amongst
You're
Gen
right.
Zs,
Mm.
and they're interested not so much in doing the religious
Yeah.
rites and all this stuff. It's more to sort of understanding
Hmm.
the spiritual side of these ancient monuments we've got in this country.
Yeah.
So I want to make it easy for people to be able to sort of find out where's the nearest stone circle with me, because I want to encourage that. That's my thing, as a
Yeah.
kind of semi-educator, is to encourage people to understand their historical environment and connect with it as well by going to the site. So they can't connect until they know where it is.
Yeah. Can you maybe, are you thinking of incorporating AI into your search tools? There's lots of companies doing that. And I think there is some benefit.
I need to look at what it can do, but at
Hmm.
some point I will do, because
Yeah.
it'd be good to have a chat bot on there.
Yeah.
Like I say, because I've been entering data into that database for 20 years
Yes.
and scanning in reports and information and
Yeah.
collecting more information. So, but I can't make sense of it because there's too much of it.
Exactly.
It must be 500,000 words.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know how to do this yet. But I need to harness the power of AI
Yeah. That's the
to
thing.
read it and then make sense of it,
Hmm.
and then to the point that it can do all the work.
Yeah.
But I don't actually know. But
So that's going to be a project in itself because you'll have to train the AI in understanding what the hell's going on.
yeah, but I mean, it's big. But I think
Yeah,
a lot of people are afraid of AI, but it's also going to bring a lot of benefits.
it is. Yeah.
And people who master it will it become its master rather than being mastered by it, are going to do really well out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned being an educationist. So that's what I was thinking as you were talking, the kind of things that you do and the information you have, it would be amazing if you could work with schools because so many kids are so scared or fed up of history lessons and things because they can't, it's not something that they can kind of relate to much.
Yep.
Um,
Totally.
but the kind of discussions that you're having, I can just imagine my daughter's year 8 and year 11 now. But if they had something like this where someone could come into their class and talk about these things, it would be amazing. It would get them into,
It would be absolutely amazing,
yeah,
because there's although treasure is sometimes a dirty word amongst historians and
yeah,
archaeologists, it's what engages,
Yes.
especially young people.
Mhm.
And if the worst you're doing is using the word treasure
Mhm.
to engage somebody with learning about their own identity, personal
Yeah.
identity, and historical identity, then it's not such a bad thing. So the idea you could go into a school with a local map, and then sort of say, here's Romans, and then it become much more
Yeah.
relevant to people. The local history
Mhm.
with treasure finds.
Yeah.
You know, most young people, especially, and I know from my own experience, you're not interested in history,
Mhm.
but people are always interested in treasure because it's like
Yes,
a
exactly.
mystical thing.
Yeah.
Nearly every, like Indiana Jones,
Yeah, exactly.
treasure stories that it's almost like a part of the collective psyche, isn't
Yeah,
it?
every culture and every period
Every
has had
culture all
those.
over the
Mhm.
world. So it's a great way of engaging young people
Yeah.
in understanding history. The key is to get them interested first,
Yes.
and then to do the education.
Because this is
Just
the
let.
thing. So the
Mm,
treasure hunting is like a process, and the actual treasure comes at the end of that. But there's so many other things that you've mentioned, like landmarks, understanding the site, understanding the historic context of what kind of people lived here, and was it an army that went past here? Was it a market? All of those things are.
mm.
It would be amazing for kids to kind of just even get them to a point where they would be fascinated enough to go and research these things.
I think it'd be pretty. In fact, there are a few schools who do subscribe to the website,
Hmm.
and that's exactly what they do.
They
They
need to.
use it because there is a crossover on the website between I think it's Key Stage 3 place names.
Okay.
So there's a crossover. So I know there are some schools who are using it for that, and I did try and commission some lesson plans last year,
Yeah.
but that didn't go through for various reasons. I didn't have the time at the
Yes.
time.
That's the
But
thing.
it would be a matter of just getting the lesson plans
Hmm.
because it'd be difficult for a teacher to understand
Yeah.
how to adapt what I do. It would be a lot of work, whereas I
Yes.
know what it does, and
Exactly.
I know what the syllabus is, so I could do it. I could do it, but again, it's a matter of time.
Hmm. That's
Yeah,
the
and
thing.
it's also for older. I mean, a lot of people who didn't have a formal education or who weren't interested in school
Yeah.
discover history. As you know yourself, you see all these people at the National Archives
Hmm.
in the library,
Yeah.
discovering their own personal history.
Yeah. People were coming to National Archives actually from all over the world because of the British Empire. There was people coming from India, people coming
Mm,
from Turkey, Australia, all over the place to access that information.
mm,
Um, so we like to on this podcast talk about business as well. So
mm.
with that in mind, do you enjoy the business aspect of running your website, or is that something that you wished you didn't have to deal with? And what
Um,
challenges have you faced?
I mean, it's been a lot of challenges,
Hmm.
but the fact that it's income generating means that I can then be funded. I've got funding to work on it.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of changes. There's been a lot of enhancements, technical enhancements since I started working on it full time. And there's a whole lot in the pipeline, and that's because it's a business. At
Hmm.
the end of the day, it's a business. But one of the problems I've got is that people think must be some big tech company, not just me.
Yeah.
So people have got very high
Yeah.
expectations, which can be quite frustrating when you can't meet them. Um, and to run a business, I mean, yeah, a lot. As you know, a business, you've got to keep it. You got to do invoicing. You got to pay your tax. You got to do
Hmm.
your VAT. So all that is it's a bit of not really something I enjoy doing. In fact, I
Yeah.
don't enjoy
And
it
there's
at
so much
all.
going on. You'd probably have to hire um, teams, contractors, or
I mean that's what
freelancers.
I did do when I first decided to expand.
Hmm.
I think I had 6 staff, but I didn't have a time I couldn't manage my own work. Never mind
Yeah.
5 other people.
You,
So,
you,
so
you'd think it is going to free up some time, but you end up actually working even longer hours because now you have to
yeah,
train
it
these
was
people to understand
yeah. So
what their duties
now
are.
it's that's not really worked out, and there's
Mhm.
also the expense. It's incredibly expensive to
Yeah,
hire staff in terms of what you can get back.
yeah,
Like if you hire a piece of machinery, or you hire or you buy a piece of office equipment, it generally starts paying itself off straight away.
Yeah.
Whereas full-time staff, you really need to
Training. Yeah.
manage them properly
Mhm.
and give them the time to become productive.
Yeah.
So now it's just not just now I have individual separate people for separate jobs who are specific at a few things that they're really good at. That I've gone through a lot of people and they're really good at this, and so that's who is helping me out.
And how do you engage with your audience, with your current subscribers? Do you have a kind of a community there that you engage with, or
I mean,
do
I
you?
suppose the main thing is Facebook. I've not really gone for Instagram or TikTok again because the site is quite technical
Yeah.
and there are bugs in it which I know about,
Mhm.
and there's also development. So that's where what I want to do is provide something that people think, wow, this is fantastic. This is just what I've been looking for. It's found me exactly what I want. Whereas if I start engaging
Yeah.
with social media,
Mhm.
then I'm not doing what I think people need.
Mm.
But then again, I've also realized that people don't actually understand, and many people don't understand, don't know what they're looking at,
Yeah.
and therefore I do need to
Exactly. Maybe if you could
engage
have
with
like
people.
a live session once a
Yeah,
quarter, even,
I
because
think
then they would, like you were saying, at the moment they don't understand. They think you're some big company. They don't understand sometimes that you're on your own trying to do all of these things. So you'll understand them better, and they'll understand you better.
that's it. Yeah, and
Mm.
like I'd like it if people. I'm going to have to engage with people. Not have to. I'm going to have to move away from the technical stuff and just spend some time doing
Yeah.
this properly, and having a session where people can ask me questions.
Hmm.
And it's also the technicalities of that. How do you set it up? How's it going to
Yeah.
work? That kind. I have no idea, but
You might
that's got
get
to be
some
done.
volunteers for some of the work, but again, it's getting volunteers is really good, but then having to train them is not easy.
The problem is in training because you and I think you did was it a master's or
Volunteer.
your bachelor's in computer science,
Yeah.
and so did I, a master's,
Yeah.
and even and then we're coming from a level trying to train people who aren't who are technical but haven't got a
Mm.
computer science background, and you forget how technical it is
Yeah.
and what you're doing.
Because at the National Archives, we actually had a team of volunteers, which was really good. But then you actually need full-time people there to train them and to see over them. So that's kind of manageable for a company like the National Archives with the
Mm.
resources that they have. But when there's one of you and you need to decide where you can utilize your time the best, it becomes difficult.
Yeah, it does, especially when the website might go down or
Yeah.
something like that.
And
Yeah,
how do you market your services to new audience? Is that something you're kind of working on, or?
it's generally with I think I found it used to be print publishing,
Mhm.
but it's very expensive print. It's small adverts,
Is
eighth
it still
page.
useful? Do you think print
Sorry,
publishing? Is it still useful
I
print
think it's
publishing
useful
service?
to give you authority,
Mm.
because if you've got if you've got a full page ad in
Mhm.
a magazine, someone knows that you're not just a fly by night person who's going to
Yeah.
they know you're a serious player.
Mhm.
Because you're paying for an advert. But I'm not sure these adverts pay for themselves.
Mm.
But one thing that I do know pays for itself is like Facebook boosting posts.
Yeah.
That all Facebook and digital, and there's a reason why those companies are worth what they're worth,
Yeah.
because they help small people.
Yeah.
Their machine enables small people like me to get a good return on their investment in terms of marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Excellent. So thank you so much. This has been so
it's all right.
useful.
My pleasure.
Before we sign off, obviously, please do share links of your website in the social media, and I will put that in the episode notes. But is there anything that you want to? You mentioned also that you have like a YouTube channel. Um,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the YouTube channel. That'd be nice if I'm going. I will start engaging. I'm
yeah.
going to have to get because people can understand, because I've got a lot of knowledge in this area,
Mhm.
and I think it's important to engage with people on the personal level.
Yeah.
And if someone's got a question, then I'll probably have a session on YouTube or Zoom, probably YouTube
Mhm.
Live, where they can ask a question, and then I can answer it. So then I can also understand what they don't understand, and then I can get a feeling of how to steer the boat
Yeah.
in the right direction. So that so obviously if people subscribe, then I can then send out a message and sort of say, I'm going to go live. If you've got any questions, now's the time, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then there's that's basically it. Yeah, I think so.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thanks for your time today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. We need to catch up soon.
Yeah,
and we'll also arrange that trip to Pakistan one day as well.
One day, yeah, through Kashmir. Fly to Northern India. Was it Northern India?
Yeah, I probably won't be able to go to India because they won't have me. But I'll see you on the Pakistan side.
Oh, all right. I'll meet you at the border.
I'll take over from there.
All right then.
All right, Chris. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks a lot, Taf. All right.
Cheers,
thanks.
Bye.
Bye.